Well, Sunday marks 15 years since 9/11, when nearly 3,000 people were killed in coordinated attacks in New York, Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. Ceremonies will be held later to commemorate those who died. President Barack Obama is set to attend those ceremonies at the White House and the Pentagon. In his weekly address, he described what the U.S. had done and continues to do to combat terror.
A lot has changed over these past 15 years. We've delivered devastating blows to the al-Qaeda leaders that attacked us on 9/11. We delivered justice to Osama bin Laden. We've strengthened our homeland security. We've prevented attacks. We've saved lives. At the same time, the terrorist threat has evolved, as we've seen so tragically from Boston to Chattanooga, from San Bernardino to Orlando. So, in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and beyond, we'll stay relentless against terrorists like al-Qaeda and ISIL. We will destroy them, and we'll keep doing everything in our power to protect our homeland. As we reflect on these past 15 years, it's also important to remember what has not changed: the core values that define us as Americans, the resilience that sustains us. After all, terrorists will never be able to defeat the United States.
Well, 15 years on, there's a hidden death toll from those attacks, one that is still rising. 3 times as many people have been diagnosed with cancer linked to the attacks in the last 2 years than in all the previous 13. Many of them are firefighters who worked at Ground Zero. TRT World's Lorna Shattuck went to meet one of them.
September the 11th, 2001. As the Twin Towers tumble, they unleash a toxic dust, covering Lower Manhattan. Into that dust rushed hundreds of firefighters. Ray Pfeiffer was one of them.
The smell, the devastation. We were working in this ash, chemical mix, whatever it was. We didn't have masks. When the smoke turned yellow, we went on the other side. When the smoke turned green, we went to the other side. You have 210-story buildings. Each floor is 16 acres. When they both came down, there was nothing, no desks, no telephones. You know, all the lighting is mercury. You knew in the back of your mind it's not good for you.
Now 58 years old, Ray tells me he has stage 4 kidney cancer, and he's had 11 operations since 2009. He's not alone. 3 times more people have been diagnosed with cancer linked to the attacks in the last 2 years than in all the previous 13.
You know, I started to explain to the doctors I was working at the Trade Center. You know, all these chemicals. One chemical could give you cancer over time, but 2,000 chemicals mixed, what does it do to you? Nobody knows.
Just a few miles from Ray's house in Long Island, this park is the only one in the US dedicated to remembering those 9/11 first responders who died after their work at Ground Zero was complete. At the moment, there's around 600 names engraved here, with another 100 or so set to be added later in September. And the park's founder says they won't be the last.
They say there's 5,400 plus people with a 9/11 related certified cancer. Somebody from every state came to New York during the cleanup and the recovery. Many of them went home in the beginning, got sick, didn't know why they got sick. Many have even died. Nobody kept track of that. We're never going to know. So that 5,400 is skewed. I think it could be 8,500 or 10,000.
John's a demolition supervisor who lost part of his foot when 8,000 pounds of steel fell on top of him during the Ground Zero cleanup operation. As well as setting up this memorial, he was instrumental in lobbying Washington to get more government money for people made ill because of their work on 9/11.
These men and women, uniform and non-uniform, from all over the country, they should have been dealt with better and faster. The fact that we're 15 years later, we're out of sight, out of mind.
Still, John and Ray insist they're the lucky ones. They're around to spend time with their families, tell their stories, and make sure those who weren't so lucky aren't forgotten. Lorna Shattuck, TRT World, New York.